Imagine a company so powerful, it convinces mothers in the poorest parts of the world that their own breast milk isn't good enough for their babies. A company that drains water from drought-stricken communities while people stand in line for hours just to fill a bucket. A company built by literal Nazis that uses child slaves to make your chocolate bar. That company exists. It's called Nestlé, and it might be the most evil corporation on earth. Let's start with the baby formula scandal, because it's where Nestlé's true nature really shows. In the 1970s, Nestlé had a problem. The baby formula market in wealthy countries was saturated. They needed new customers, so they turned their attention to Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Poor countries where clean water was scarce, and mothers couldn't afford formula long-term. Nestlé's strategy was diabolical. They dressed sales representatives in nurse uniforms and sent them into hospitals and villages. These fake nurses told new mothers that formula was more modern, more scientific, better than breast milk. They gave out free samples to mothers for just long enough that the mothers would stop lactating. Once your body stops producing milk, you can't just start again. These mothers were now dependent on formula. And here's where it gets truly evil. These families couldn't afford the formula after the free samples ran out, so they watered it down, making it last longer. But watered-down formula doesn't provide enough nutrition. Babies starved slowly while drinking every day. And remember, these are communities without clean water. Mothers were mixing formula with contaminated water because they had no choice. Their babies got sick, dysentery, cholera, infections. The estimate is that Nestlé's baby formula practices killed over 1 million babies. 1 million. Let that sink in. A company killed 1 million babies to increase market share. When activists and doctors started sounding the alarm, Nestlé didn't stop. They doubled down. They sued activists for libel. They lobbied governments. They fought against international regulations. It took a massive global boycott and years of pressure before they agreed to follow international marketing codes. But even today, investigations find Nestlé still violating these codes in developing countries, still targeting poor mothers, still putting profits over infant lives. But baby formula is just the beginning. Let's talk about water. Nestlé's former CEO Peter Brabeck once said that access to water is not a human right. Actually said those words out loud. That water should be privatized and given a market value. This is the same man whose company extracts millions of gallons of water from public sources, bottles it, and sells it back to people at 1,000 times the cost. In Michigan, while the city of Flint was poisoning its residents with lead-contaminated water, Nestlé was pumping 200 million gallons a year from Michigan aquifers. They paid $200 a year for the permit. $200 to take 200 million gallons. That's less than 1,000th of a penny per gallon. Meanwhile, Flint residents were paying for poisoned water from their taps. In California during historic droughts, when residents were told to let their lawns die and limit showers, Nestlé was bottling water from natural springs in the San Bernardino National Forest. Their permit had expired in 1988. They operated without a valid permit for decades, taking water during a drought emergency, while California was literally on fire. In Pakistan, Nestlé built a plant in a region already facing water scarcity. Local communities reported their wells drying up. Women had to walk farther every day to find water. Children were skipping school to help carry water. And meanwhile, trucks were leaving the Nestlé plant carrying the community's water in bottles to be sold in cities. The plant was pumping out 50,000 bottles an hour, while villages nearby had no running water. In France, Nestlé was caught extracting 3 times the legal limit of water from Vitel Springs, threatening the town's entire water supply. In Brazil, they were accused of draining natural springs in a national park. The pattern is everywhere. Go into poor communities, extract their water for almost nothing, bottle it, sell it back to wealthy consumers, leave the locals with nothing. Now let's talk about slavery. Actual child slavery. Your Kit Kat bar, your Crunch bar, your Nesquik. There's a good chance it was made with cocoa harvested by children, not teenagers working part-time. Young children, some as young as 5 years old, working with machetes on cocoa farms, exposed to pesticides, many trafficked from neighbouring countries, held against their will. In 2001, Nestlé and other chocolate companies signed the Harkin-Engel Protocol, promising to eliminate child labour from their cocoa supply chains. They set a deadline of 2005. That deadline passed. They moved it to 2008. That passed. Then 2010. Then 2020. It's 2026 now. A lawsuit filed in 2005 alleged that Nestlé knowingly bought cocoa from farms using child slaves. That case went on for 16 years. Nestlé fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, arguing that they couldn't be held liable for slavery happening outside the United States. The Supreme Court agreed on a technicality. Investigations in Ivory Coast, where most of the world's cocoa comes from, found over 30,000 children working in hazardous conditions on cocoa farms. Many had been trafficked. Many had scars from machete accidents. Many had never tasted chocolate despite spending their childhoods harvesting it. When confronted with this evidence, Nestlé's response has always been the same. They say the supply chain is complex. They say they're working on it. They say they can't control every farm, but they've had 25 years and billions in profits. They could solve this problem if they wanted to. They just don't want to spend the money. Let's go back in time. During World War II, Nestlé's business was booming. They operated in Nazi Germany. They bought milk from farms that used forced labour from concentration camps. After the war, documents reveal that Nestlé had profited significantly from Nazi Germany. The company has never fully acknowledged or apologised for this, and one of their most prominent executives was a member of the Nazi Party. His name was Hans Mussi, and he wasn't just any Nazi. He was connected to high-ranking SS officers. But the Nazi connection goes even deeper. Nestlé's German branch was essentially run by the Nazi government during the war. They used slave labour. They produced rations for Nazi troops. And after the war, like so many companies that collaborated with the Nazis, they just continued on. No real consequences, no justice, just business as usual. Fast forward to today. Nestlé has been caught engaging in anti-competitive practices repeatedly. They were fined by the European Union for price fixing. They've been accused of monopolistic behaviour in developing countries, using their market power to squeeze out local competitors and control entire markets. In Pakistan, they were accused of having a monopoly on milk collection, forcing farmers to sell only to them at prices Nestlé dictated. There's also the plastic problem. Nestlé is one of the world's biggest plastic polluters. Studies consistently rank them in the top 3 corporations for plastic waste. All those water bottles, all that packaging, ending up in oceans, in landfills, in the stomachs of sea life. They've made pledges to reduce plastic waste, to make packaging recyclable. But investigations show they're nowhere near meeting their own targets. It's all greenwashing. And then there's the lying. Nestlé has been caught making false health claims about their products over and over. They marketed sugary cereals to children as healthy breakfast options. They claimed their infant formula could prevent diseases when it couldn't. In South Africa, they marketed a product called Nan, a baby formula, claiming it could protect babies from infections. It couldn't. They were forced to stop after public outcry. They've also been accused of union busting and violating workers' rights in multiple countries. In Colombia, union leaders at Nestlé facilities have been murdered. The company denies responsibility, but the pattern is clear. Where strong unions exist, Nestlé fights them. Where workers try to organise, they face retaliation. Here's what makes Nestlé particularly insidious. They own so many brands that boycotting them is nearly impossible. They own over 2,000 brands. Your coffee? Probably Nestlé. They even own a stake in L'Oréal. You can't escape them. That's intentional. When you control that much of the market, you can get away with almost anything. One brand gets caught in a scandal. No problem, consumers will switch to another brand you also own. You've diversified your evil. The scale of Nestlé's operations means they touch billions of lives. And at nearly every point of contact there's a scandal. Environmental destruction, labour violations, false advertising, predatory marketing, resource theft, enabled slavery. The list goes on and on. What's perhaps most chilling is how calculated it all is. This isn't a company making mistakes. These are conscious business decisions. They know what they're doing. The baby formula scandal proved they're willing to kill babies for profit. Everything after that is just confirmation that they'll do whatever it takes to make money. Ethics don't enter the equation. They have teams of lawyers to fight regulations. They have lobbyists to influence governments. They have PR firms to manage their image. When caught, they issue carefully worded statements. They promise to do better. They launch initiatives with nice-sounding names. And then they continue doing exactly what they were doing before. There's a reason activists have been trying to boycott Nestlé for over 40 years. There's a reason they're consistently voted one of the most hated companies in the world. There's a reason that whenever someone asks what's the most evil corporation, Nestlé is always near the top of the list. The true horror of Nestlé isn't just what they've done, it's that they keep getting away with it. They're not some small operation that can be shut down easily. They're one of the largest food companies on Earth. They have more money than some countries. They have influence everywhere, and they use that power to continue exploiting the vulnerable, destroying the environment, and prioritizing profit over every single human value. So next time you reach for a bottle of water, or grab a candy bar, or buy coffee, check the label. Because there's a very good chance your money is going to fund a company that has caused immeasurable suffering around the world. A company that looked at dying babies and saw dollar signs. A company that sees your drinking water as their product. A company that's fine with child slavery as long as it keeps their costs down. Nestlé, the most evil company in the world, and they're in your kitchen right now.